Is competition a good thing? Is competition a bad thing? Some people will say create, don't compete. But if you take competition entirely out of the equation, doesn't that take away the zeal, the zest to push forward, stretch and grow? We are not competing against each other. We are competing with one another. There is abundance in the world. There is enough in the world to go around. We can be the best version of ourselves without diminishing one another. One person doesn't have to fail for another person to succeed. 2 weeks before the 2020 Lagos City Marathon, I was involved in a tricycle accident. This tricycle ran into me from behind and my left foot ended up getting stuck in one of its wheels for about a minute or two before I could eventually pull it loose. My leg was in such excruciating pain. I was so scared that it was broken. How am I going to run the marathon now? This marathon that I had dedicated the past 4 months to preparing for. It was such a huge relief when I discovered my foot wasn't broken. But still, I couldn't run with that much pain and swelling. What am I going to do now? The clock is ticking. The marathon day is getting closer. What am I going to do? Eventually, 2 weeks after the accident, I decided to resume training. But I couldn't run fast and every step I took was shooting pain to my brain, but I just kept pushing on. It was one of the days during that week that I resumed training. I saw someone running ahead way in the distance. Immediately I saw the person, I made up my mind to catch up with the person. Despite the pain I was feeling, not only did I catch up, I ended up overtaking this guy, and trust me, he was running as well. That experience taught me about the power of a community. How just seeing somebody doing the same thing I was doing could infuse strength and courage I didn't know I had. And that's what a community does. A community stirs up, ignites that strength and courage in us we didn't know that we had in ourselves. It was such a powerful lesson I learned while preparing for running and finishing the 2020 Lagos City Marathon. I can't tell you how many times a fresh spark came to my eyes and renewed strength came to my strides just from seeing someone else who was running on the road as well. You are just encouraged and strengthened when you hear that clap that says you are doing a great job. Others may despise you, others may ignore you, but I see you. I see you. I see what you are doing. I know how difficult this is because I'm doing it as well. That power of a community was also a lesson I learned while actually running the marathon. Initially, there was this cluster of us running, but as the race wore on, this cluster began to break up. Those who had the energy, the gas, and the strength pulled way ahead of the rest of us, and those who didn't have any gas or any energy or strength to go on just dropped out of the race. The rest of us who were right there in the middle, everybody is running at his own individual pace. There is nothing as discouraging as when you are running and you are running all alone. Running alone with your thoughts. It's at this time that those feelings of giving up can weigh really heavy on you. What I had imagined before the marathon D-Day was this long stretch of onlookers along the running path cheering us on, the runners, until we got to the finish line. I never imagined that there would be long stretches of road where there wouldn't be one single onlooker in sight to cheer anybody on. This just goes to show you how indeed the power of a community, having that friendly face around to give you a pleasant smile, to encourage you, to support you in our journey towards becoming the very best version of ourselves. A community is so powerful. It was Ellen Keller that said, alone we can do so little, but together we can accomplish so much. There's that African proverb, if you want to go very fast, go alone. But if you want to go very far, go together. It's great to go fast, but we want to go far. We want to sustain our tempo on high performance, and that's why having a community, having a support system, it's so important. 3 big ideas to harness the power of a community. Number 1, we need to change our paradigm of differences. What happens is we tend to attack what we don't understand. We tend to attack something that looks different from us. But if we're really going to harness the power of a community, we need to realize our strength doesn't lie in our similarities. Our strength lies in our differences. A team of 12 people in which everyone thinks exactly exactly alike, then 11 of them are unnecessary. This is why we need to celebrate our differences rather than fight our differences. Number 2 big idea to harness the power of a community is to change our paradigm of that word competition. Even I have struggled with that word competition. Is competition a good thing? Is competition a bad thing? Some people will say create, don't compete. But if you take competition entirely out of the equation, doesn't that take away the zeal, the zest to push forward, stretch and grow? Until I read Kevin Hart's book, he said we are not competing against each other, we are competing with one another. There is abundance in the world. There is enough in the world to go around. We can be the best version of ourselves without diminishing one another. One person doesn't have to fail for another person to succeed. Number 3 big idea to harnessing the power of a community is to change our understanding of that word loneliness. And loneliness is not about a loss of affection, it's about a loss of direction. It's about purpose and not people. Because one thing that we tend to do sometimes, we seek out a community just for the sole purpose of not being alone. We are so scared, we are so terrified of being alone that any and every community we want to be a part of. This ends up being counterproductive, because to be able to love ourselves properly and to be able to even love and support others, we have to learn to be alone. If we don't take out time to learn this thing, what happens is we get into relationships, we get into a community, and what we do is we tend to use people for our goals, for our desires, for our dreams. We use people for our amusement, we use people for our pleasure and our entertainment. But at the end of the day, we realize it's not about using people, but about working with and walking with people. And this can only happen when we change our understanding about loneliness and to focus on our life's work, focus on doing our purpose. To live a life of no excuses, a life where we go on to crush our goals, exceed limits, break barriers, and go on to be a pleasant surprise to not just people around us, but to ourselves. It's helpful to remember that there is nothing as powerful as a group of people with similar interests coming together to work on a similar goal. A person who has harnessed the power of a group of people working together on a particular goal has harnessed the greatest power known to man. We don't heal in isolation, we heal in a community.